Hi, kiddos. This is Mrs. Keim.
And Mr. Keim.
We're so excited to be back with you again. And this video is going to teach your parents how to listen to you say sections at home. So if your parents aren't with you, then pause the video and go get them.
Pause.
All right.
Unpause.
So first thing we thought it would be fun to do is to sing the Awana song together. I know you're probably missing singing it with us, and your parents have never gotten a chance to hear it. So I'm going to pull up a video here, and let's sing along with the Awana song. Good job. I hope you were really singing and not just making us be the only ones singing that. All right.
I wanted to review to you guys, especially parents, the camp incentive that we have at First Baptist Church LaGrange for the Awana program. If your child says the complete book, which includes the weekly sections, the gold sections, and the silver sections, they get a full week paid by our church. There's also shorter implements. If they only said the weekly sections, they can get a third paid, or if they said all the gold, you get 2/3 paid. So it's really good incentive for the kids to get these things done, because camp can be $300 to $400 a piece. So that's why we're actually trying to get this thing going here so that you guys can do some more sections. Speaking of the camps, I want to tell you about Camp Patmos. It's up on Kelly's Island, up on Lake Erie. A lot of water fun things to do. As you can see in some of the pictures, there's tubing, sailing. They have different games on the fields and stuff up there.
You went there as a kid, didn't you?
I went there as a kid. I went there as a counselor. I've been up there a number of times. It's really a fun time. And then, of course, the worship time that they have, worshiping God together, is just incredible. So it's always a good time for that. Jenny will tell you about Skyview.
Yeah. My favorite growing up was Skyview Ranch. I went there starting in 3rd grade almost every year. I think I went a couple years to Patmos, but I really love Skyview because I love horses, and it's Skyview Ranch. So they have lots of horses that you get to ride, but they have lots of other things too. They have a pool and a lake.
They have archery and shooting, I think.
Yeah,
too.
They do. Zip line, the blob. Yeah. Plus Chapel, like Mr. Keim said, is really a blast. You get to sing lots of fun praise music, and they have different speakers that come in. And there's a lot of really crazy songs and skits and stuff too that you get to do. I think you would all love it. So I hope you will work really hard and try to at least earn part of your week of camp paid. So I'm going to go through with the parents exactly what needs to be completed in a weekly section to qualify as that section being passed. So the first part that we have them work on is called Start Here. And it is on page 175 in the kids' book. If you want to go get their book and take a look at it with us, that might be helpful too. You could pause and go get their book.
You're just doing an example, right? Is this the one they're working on right now?
This section was the last one that we said
Okay.
before we were out for spring break.
Okay.
So this one they've already done, and our next video will actually be the new section that they'll start working on. Okay, so this first section is part that they have to work on is called Start Here on page 175. And it's just an introductory part to the lesson. It just is kind of a application or think about this. This is kind of what your lesson is going to be about. This particular one says, have you ever had to tell a teacher or someone in authority some important facts about something that you saw happen, like you were the witness to some event? What was it about? Draw or write about it in the space below. So they have a space here where they have to write or they can draw a picture to tell about that event. And this one down here is kind of neat. Most of the clubbers haven't been doing this because it's optional, but it says, ask your parent or guardian. Have you ever had to tell a boss or someone in authority about some important facts about something that you saw happen? So since you guys are at home together, working on these sections together, this would be a fun thing to do together. So that's the first part, Start Here. The next part is called Explore, and you'll find it on page 176 and 177. And it is full of verses and questions. Now, this is the part that we do together in club at night. This is what we're going to be making the videos of. We want to teach your kids this because this is the meat of the program, God's word that we're teaching them about. And so we're going to make videos over the rest of them where we will actually read the verses together and answer the questions together. And they can follow along in their book and fill out those questions as we go. The next part is Memorize. We talked about how the Awana program is great at having students memorize scripture. And you'll see it here with the red heart next to it, Memorize, on page 180. So they have a verse that they have to memorize. This particular one is Acts 1:8. And so this is a verse that they memorized last week. So they have to memorize that. And I'll have Mr. Keim give you some pointers about what to look for to make sure that they really have that verse memorized. They also are required to review the verse from the week before. We really want them to have these verses in their head so that years later they'll still remember them, not just look over it real fast and say it to us as fast as they can. So the review part with the green arrow there, it shows them the verse that they also need to say. So every weekly section has 2 verses that they need to say. All right, and then you'll go over to page 181, and there's a place where you will sign all of the sections, okay? So down at the bottom here, you see it says section 3-7 completed, and it has a few symbols next to it. Those correspond to the parts that we already talked about. The Start Here, the Explore, the Memorize, okay? And then you also see gold and silver down here. You'll also, if they work on their gold and silver sections, you will come back here to this signature page, page 181, to sign those sections for them. Gives you a place to sign and date, and then we'll talk about how to let us know about that.
All right, let me give you some pointers, parents, on how we'd like you to say these sections, how your kids will say the sections to you. Each section can be said, or each verse can be said separately. Mrs. Keim just talked about the regular verse and the review verse. Yeah. They don't have to be said both at the same time. They could say the Acts 1:8 verse first, and then the First Peter verse after they've looked at it again. So they don't have to say them both at the same time. We also give the clubbers 2 helps, which means like they're stuck on a word, you can give it to them twice. Okay, hopefully it's not the same word.
Twice in a section. So twice. A lot of times it's 1 per verse.
Right.
Yeah.
Things that you cannot help them with is the reference. Like, for example, Acts 1:8 is the reference. I think I talked in the last video that Acts is the book of a Bible. 1 is the chapter, 8 is the verse. in that chapter. So Acts 1:8 is how it's said. They have to know that. Okay, you can't help them with that. Also, the first word of that verse. So in that particular verse is, but you shall receive. So you can't help them with the word but. Okay. Then these kids are really sneaky. I've had kids that actually have written their verses on
Not your kids.
Well, right. But they've actually written it on their hands and they're looking down and I said, let me see your hand. And sure enough, it's like, really? Or I've had kids kind of looking around and, since we're all in the same section, they're kind of looking over on somebody else's book so they can see that verse if they're kind of stuck. But try to make sure that they don't see the verse. All right. The whole idea of memorization is to memorize it, not to be able to recall it that way. So.
All right. So I'm going to just go over with you quickly the gold sections also. In the gold section, the child is going to choose one verse. Usually there's about 4 verses there, and they choose whichever one they want them to do. I ask my girls to try not to choose a verse that they've already done. So if it has John 3:16 as one of the verses, I usually don't let them do that one because the idea is we want them to memorize more and more. So try to have them choose a verse that they've not memorized previously and follow the same guidelines for listening to it that Mr. Keim just talked to you about. And then go back to that signature page, and there's a place for you to sign and date for the golds. Also, the silver section is a little different. It is actually more of a Bible study. The kids will look up verses, and they will answer questions. So they need to look up every verse and read every verse, fill in every blank. We'd like you to check over them just to make sure that they understood what they were reading and answered those questions correctly. And then again, go back to the signature page to sign and date that.
So after your child finishes one of these sections, either the weekly section, a gold section, or silver section, what do you as parents do? Well, there's a couple things you can do. You can either text myself or my wife, and those are our numbers right there. I guess you can still see our number.
Oh, yeah.
221-1733. For hers, sorry about that. And the other one is move over. Hey, there you go.
Just move it so I cut Mr. Keim off the edge.
Yeah, I need to be seen. Or you can there it is or at my email there. You can just let us know. Take a picture of it. Just make sure we know who you are when you text to us.
Which section it is, however you want to do that.
So not too difficult. We do it every week. It's fun and. Maybe you guys as parents may learn some things as well. So
yeah, and we'll keep track of it and kind of keep in touch with you as time gets closer to the end about how many more sections your kids have to work on and where they are with that process. So yeah, so our next video that we're going to make will be the actual first section that they need to sit down, watch the video, fill in things in their book. It just so happens it's a review section, so it goes over section 1 through 7, section 3.1 through 3.7, and we do a big review. It's kind of cool because it's a review over the life and death of Jesus. And since we're coming right up to Easter, it's really cool that we'll have the chance to review the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And I wanted to remind you, if we were in Awana still meeting together and we were going to be doing this section, it would be Sunday night. Ice cream Sunday night. Oh, yeah. So I want you guys to make sure that you have your bowl of ice cream ready when you watch the next video for review section 3.8. Yes. Because we're going to have our ice cream ready.
And one of the most important things I forgot to mention to you parents is when the kids tell me a section, they get rewarded. And they can tell you what they get.
That's true.
So you can decide what you want to do, if anything, for a reward to give them some more incentive to.
Usually it's candy.
Yeah. So that's why they come back to you all wired up and stuff.
Yeah, right.
All right. We'll talk to you next video. Thanks for listening.
All right. Good to see you.
Tune in now.